Boy, boy, crazy boy, time to review West Side Story. Who knew that I was such a freaking West Side Story fan? Anyway, yeah, let's go. West Side Story stars Ansel Elgort, Rachel Ziegler, Ariana DeBose, David Alvarez, Rita Moreno, and is directed by Steven Spielberg. What's up, guys? We are nearing the end of the year. We are in December. Can you believe it? This new movie, West Side Story, just came out. Context, going into this, not a big fan of musicals. I guess you could say I haven't watched too many of them. A lot of the classics like The Sound of Music, never seen it. But usually I shy away from them for some reason. Sweeney Todd with Johnny Depp. I love that movie. I really love that one. So one thing I've learned about musicals is I like a good balance in them. I like when they mix just regular spoken language with some musical numbers throughout. I think that makes for easily digestible content for me when it comes to musicals. Luckily, West Side Story was just that. You know, growing up, I always knew of West Side Story. I knew that it was this very beloved movie. I didn't realize that it won like 10 Oscars back in 1961. Didn't even realize that Rita Moreno was actually in the movie, but I saw that documentary on her life recently, and I fell in love with this woman, this person. She had such a unique career, talking about all the struggles that she went. You know, she was in the trenches with Hollywood in terms of like racism and feminism and all that stuff that happened back then. You know, women, especially women of color, went through some really tough times back then. And Rita Moreno, she fought through it all like a champ. And so going into this, it was nice to see that she has not only a cameo, but she actually has a substantial role in this. She is a very important character. And if you haven't checked out that documentary about Rita Moreno, definitely check it out. I believe it's on Netflix. Wonderful, 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 but I love this woman, I do. But I loved this movie so much, cards right on the table, that I went and watched the original pretty much right after I got home from seeing the movie. I wanted to watch the original. And I prefer this version just because I think it's better directed, but it wasn't the first, you know? The original is the original story, even though that was based off of a play, I believe. But Steven freaking Spielberg directed this movie, not just any director, okay? This is, I believe, Steven Spielberg's first like major motion picture musical. I believe he's dabbled in the past with shorts and stuff, but this is his first musical, and from frame number one, you will be able to tell that this is a Steven Spielberg film. It has all those characteristics of his movies. Just the way the camera so effortlessly guides the audience through all of his movies. He makes it look easy somehow, but still very stylish. But more importantly, he has his own signature. And I believe this is some of his finest work, if I'm being honest, the way he moves through all these musical acrobatic set pieces, let's just go ahead and call it that, while also dealing with these hot button issues of racism, a hard-edged social commentary, which this movie came out 60 years ago, and to me, still as relevant today as it was back then. And I got emotional watching this movie. So before we dive into all that, let's give you a quick plot synopsis if you've never seen the original, because I didn't until after I watched this movie. But this is basically a Romeo and Juliet type story. You know, you have these two different gangs in the inner cities of New York. You have the Sharks and you have the Jets. And the Jets are more like Italian, white Italians, and then the Sharks are Puerto Ricans. And they're occupying this same territory and they're fighting for it. And, you know, they're gangs. This is gang culture, and they hate each other. Right in the midst of all this, one of the Jets, who's trying to pull himself out of it because he actually killed somebody and did some time. And so he's trying to get away from all that and make his life better. So they go to this dance, and he is mesmerized by Maria. His name's Tony. Anton, by the way, but he's mesmerized by Maria, who is on the Puerto Rican side. And so the two of them caused this whole, planned gang fight, this confrontation at the end of the movie, because Maria is Bernardo's sister. And Bernardo obviously doesn't like the Jets. And Tony is on the side of the Jets. So he wants to have this big gang fight to, I guess, kind of teach the Jets a lesson that, hey, stay on your turf. Don't you dare even think about coming on our side, much less dating one of our own, much less dating my sister. But these two, they are smitten with each other. And luckily in this movie, the chemistry, I think, is very strong between Ansel Elgort and Rachel Zegler. I believe this is Rachel Zegler's first motion picture. She was in the play before this, and she had played Maria before. But she's fantastic in this. Both of them are fantastic, great voices. One thing that I loved about this movie, comparing it to the original, is the original, for the most part, was an English-speaking movie, even though you had Spanish-speaking characters. And keep in mind, this is 1961. The world was a different place back then. Racial tensions were a lot higher. So much so that even in Hollywood, they would have non-Spanish characters, non-Puerto Rican characters being played by different nationalities. And you can tell their faces are literally painted up. Can you imagine if they did that today? So one thing I loved about this one was they casted to type. The dialogue is appropriate. Where you have the Puerto Ricans, they are speaking Spanish, and where you have the Americans, they're speaking such. Just adds more authenticity to the story. So this is a musical, right? I said I don't like musicals. The musical numbers in this are amazing. And I think part of it is the songs are really good. They're really catchy. I mean, I never realized that I Feel Pretty was from West Side Story. That's a song I've heard my whole life. Here it is right here in this movie, but that's not even my favorite song. There's this song called Cool, the boy, crazy boy. The very iconic America sequence, and all these dance sequences are insane. This is where you really get to marvel at Spielberg and how he can put a scene together, and the choreography is brilliant and everything flows so well. You're just dazzled. This is cinema. For this reason, I would highly recommend you guys check this out in the theater if you get a chance. Don't rent this when it comes out. You won't get the same experience. Obviously check out the movie, but I can't stress enough to check this out on the big screen. You will just be dazzled. My favorite dance sequence is there's this one that's on this bridge. It's near the end of the movie. You have like the leader of the Jets, and he is having this showdown with Tony. There's a lot of tension in this scene, but also on this bridge, there are these holes in the, in these boards, and they're dancing around the boards, and they're like literally inches away from plummeting to their death, so that scene was very exciting. But the big thing that I really loved about this movie, aside from just the beautiful directing, was the story, and how it's so relevant still today. In this situation, I guess you could say racism, but it's in your face. This is not like passive racism like we see a lot today. Yes, racism is definitely there up front in your face, but I think even more times than not, it can have a passive nature these days. Whereas in this story, way back in the 60s, there was no mystery about it whatsoever. The Jets and the Sharks hate each other's guts. It's so embedded and so dug in that the thought of a relationship between two opposing sides is an absolute no-go. So you can automatically predict what the outcome of this is going to be, because there's no way that they can get away with this. And I was getting emotional during this movie because it's so relevant today. You could say the racism aspect, but I think even more the social aspect of today. How you do have opposing sides, not even racism, it could be political. Two sides are so passionate about their beliefs, and there's no possible way of straying the other direction. That it would almost take like a miracle to change the situation. And I think a lot of people are going to really connect with this movie just because of the way the story is fleshed out. The characters are so strong. And you know, if I really have to foot stomp certain characters in this movie, there's this guy, David Alvarez, who plays Bernardo, and he's like the leader of the Sharks. This guy really stuck out to me as not only a great actor, but a super talented dancer, you know, in a lot of the musical numbers. Just a commanding performance all the way through in every aspect, and he's definitely one of the ones that really stuck out to me. And also Ariana DeBose, who played Anita, which was his girlfriend. Anita was played by Rita Moreno in the original, who steals the freaking show in the 1961 version. You can't take your eyes off of her. And funny enough, she was Puerto Rican, but they still made her wear this like dark makeup. So big shoes to fill, but I think Ariana DeBose does a fantastic job, actually. And there's a very powerful scene in the end, if you've seen the original, where she confronts the Jets after a certain tragedy. And it's a very powerful scene, and Rita Moreno herself plays a big part in that scene. Every time Rita Moreno was on screen, I couldn't help but crack a smile. I was just so pleased to see her in this movie after, 60 years of being in the original, and she still dazzles. She's still wonderful. So guys, cannot recommend West Side Story enough. I could not believe that this movie, it cracks my top 5 of the year easily. It's fantastic. So go see this on the big screen, please. You will thank me, I promise. Trapped on an Island, for sure. Oh, and I did get a few people that said that the glare from Jolene did kind of get in the way. And so I listened to you guys, and I tried this little backdrop. I put a t-shirt there because I'm a t-shirt guy anyway. I always have different t-shirts. So, hey, why not display some t-shirts so you get 2 for 1? You get this shirt and then you get that shirt. Night of the Living Dead, right? What's better than Night of the Living Dead? So there you go. So anyway, post your thoughts in the comments on West Side Story. Looking forward to hearing them. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.